How to be insanely productive. Wouldn't that be awesome? And I say insanely because it's going to be mind-blowing when you realize how your brain affects your productivity and what you can do about it. So I'm going to assume that you're smart because you're here. I'm going to assume that you are a busy person and you've got a lot on your plate, but you have a lot of things that you want to accomplish, a lot of goals, a lot of projects maybe you want to get done, and you're here to learn how to do that more efficiently. So stay tuned. I'm going to share my top 5 steps for being more insanely productive. So if that's you, you're in the right place. Okay, I want to get into the first thing that you need to know about how to be more productive is we have to understand what stress is and why we have it. So stress comes from way back in the caveman days, okay? So let's think about life now, okay? What stresses you out? Like, is it technology? Maybe there's just so many emails coming in every day. Maybe you have lots of projects to do at your job. Maybe more is expected of you. Even then, like 10 years ago, we didn't have all this stuff bombarding us, right? We have just so much information coming at us, and our brain right now is forced to handle making decisions for so many different things during the day. Now, if we think back to the caveman days, what did they have to stress about or worry about? There was 4 things, okay? 4 major things. And that was food, shelter, danger that's lurking around, and procreation. Well, we don't really need help with that. Most of the people I know. And the food and shelter thing, it's not really in the forefront of our mind. However, we still do have that instinct, right? Now, the part of our brain when we were cavemen or way long ago that controlled and scanned for danger and noticed the danger and responded to dangerous threats, that part of our brain is still very active, and that's where our stress is. That is something that we're still doing, but not for the exact same reasons. We don't think every little noise at night is going to kill us. But our brain still sends messages to us when it feels like there's something that we need to address. So think about when you're sitting in a room full of people, whether you know them or not, and everybody has a phone nowadays, and you hear somebody's text message go off, and it sounds like yours. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, is that for me? What do I do? What do I do? Do I have to respond to it? Wait, I just got to check this message, right? That's what we do because our brains right now are trained to do that just within the last few years. But our brains haven't really been able to adjust as fast as technology has grown. We can't adapt as quickly and say, you know what? You don't need to stress about that. So you can see like how our brain really controls our stress. We stress about these little signals. Take for instance, when your telephone was attached to the wall, okay? I grew up, I always had a telephone attached to the wall, and then cordless came out when I was, I don't know, high school. So it was a long time ago, but when my parents were busy, they just didn't answer the phone. Do we do that now? We're like, well, maybe we don't answer it, but we sure as heck go over and see who's calling, and if we need to answer it, we will. Like, it's just such a different time, but in such a short time span. You know, just a few years can make a whole lot of difference. So we are far from caveman times, but our brain hasn't yet adapted in that fashion. So first and foremost, we do have to deal with distractions because of that very thing. So when our brain is scanning for anything that we may need to respond to in that same primitive area that we had for danger signals, we have to make sure that we do everything we can to get away from those distractions. So for instance, think about your cell phone. When you're trying to do a project, if you're setting your cell phone right there, chances are you're gonna touch it and you're gonna check something, whether it's email, Facebook, I don't care. If it's next to you, you're gonna check it. You're gonna wanna get rid of your phone. Put it on airplane mode or shut it down and put it in a different room. That way your temptation to just pick it up and just glance to see if anything's happened or glance to see if you need to respond to something isn't as big. And right now I don't even hardly sometimes hear my phone because I'm never carrying it around my house. I just don't do it anymore. I would not get anything done. I know that about myself, so I have to stop myself. So the distractions. The other thing is music. Now people say, oh, I work so much better with music. Well, you don't work better and you're not as productive with music. You may be motivated by music, but the reason you're not as productive is because your brain has to think about the music, even if it's subconsciously. It has to evaluate it and say, oh, is this a harmful song or a song about something bad? Is something bad going to happen? And I know it sounds silly to say out loud, but your brain is constantly scanning the environment. So shut everything down, like everything. All right, so that's my thing about distractions, but now you know why our brains are just wired. So you're not crazy because you're always distracted. You don't have ADD necessarily, although some of us do, but it's because that part of our brain is in overtime, you know, on overload all the time. All right, so that's tip number 1. Remove all distractions. Tip number 2, you're gonna know this one because I say it every time I talk about productivity. And why do I say it over and over again? Because it works. This is the key. You need to plan your day the night before. And I hate to keep harping on this, but boy, I will tell you, people don't plan. So let's think about this. Let's say you get all dressed and you got your makeup and your hair done. What's the first thing you go to do when you get to work? If you have an outside office or if you're in home office, what do? You open up your computer and you do what? You check email. Not that that's a bad thing, but if you don't have your day planned, guess what your day is going to be dictated by? It's going to be dictated by those people that need something from you in that email. So you're going to open up the email, you're going to say, oh, such and such needs this, so and so needs that, and you're going to start to work on those things. And by the time your lunch break comes, you're like, crap, I didn't get done the things that I needed to get done, right? You're letting somebody else dictate your schedule when you fail to plan. And if you've been through my Find Your Free Time training, you already know how to plan your day and you'll know how to automate it on your phone. Now that doesn't mean you're carrying your phone around all the time. Chances are you probably do in this day and age, but I teach you how to automate your day and your to-do list and how to schedule it in an order where you're more productive. So if you haven't taken that training yet, it's totally free. I just revamped it. So go to findyourfreetime.com and you will have it there to access for life. Okay, so planning your day is so much better than having somebody else or events that happen dictate what you're going to do. You have to focus on the things that you must do that day. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3, I like this one because I hadn't thought of it before. Probably like a year ago is when I learned it from my mentor. So she suggested finding your power hour. Now, what's a power hour? That is some time in your day, and you probably are already aware of this, but you haven't connected the things together to make it make sense. So there's probably a time of day when you are like, man, I got so much done in this such a short period of time. I like have all this energy going on. And that's usually for most people between the hours of like 8 and 10 in the morning. My magic hour is between 8:30 and 9. I got to start something because I have so much energy and so much motivation to do things early in the day. As soon as I get my kids fed and dressed for the day and they're off, half are off to school, half are just doing their own thing, I start working. And that's also when I have my personal assistant come, is that time, because she's gonna work on the distractions that come while I'm trying to get that 1 hour, that good 1 hour in. So what do you do during that power hour? That's when you schedule things that are maybe require the most concentration, definitely, but maybe the things that are going to be most impactful in your day, or maybe that one thing that you don't want to do that will kind of linger in the back of your head if you don't get it done. So just do it right away during your power hour when you've got motivation and you got energy. And that way when 3 o'clock rolls around, do you have the same 3 o'clock that I do? Because my 3 o'clock like is this. Oh my gosh, I'm so hungry, I'm so tired. Oh, my kids are coming home from school and I'm like, oh, the house is a mess, whatever. And I'm just like feeling blah. That's not the time to start doing something that you need to concentrate on. Okay, so know your power hour and know when not to schedule things that need your concentration. So that's tip number 3. Tip number 4 is something that I used to do all the time and I thought it was good. And maybe you're like this too. I thought multitasking was going to get me further ahead. Oh, I was so wrong. And when I stopped doing it, I got even more accomplished than when I tried to do 2 things at once. Okay, so I'm gonna give you an example because I know there's gonna be people out there saying, oh, I can multitask. It's no problem, I do it all the time. That's what I thought. But here's the thing, and I'm gonna show you how it works. But I want to tell you a little bit about it. Your brain, I kind of mentioned this before, it has to make decisions all day long. It makes decisions about what to wear, what to eat, decisions on whatever you're working on. You have to think about and then make a decision and then implement it. So it's burning glucose like crazy trying to make these decisions. That's how your brain is fed, through glucose or sugar. It only can concentrate on one thing at a time, but to try to picture two things at the same time and make good choices about both. So here's what you can do. So if you take out a piece of paper, or you can just visualize this in your head. If I told you to write out a series of numbers across the top of your paper, you could do that pretty quickly, right? Say it was up to 26. And then if you wrote the alphabet underneath that, 26 letters, you know, right in a row, no problem. Takes you what, 4 or 5 seconds each? Now if I asked you to write number 1, and then underneath it, write letter A, then go back up, write number 2, back down, write letter B, whatever number corresponds with the, you know, sequential letter. To do it that way, how much longer do you think it would take? Well, they did this study. The actual average was about 40 seconds. Because the further along they got in the alphabet, the further or more brain fog they had, because their brain was constantly switching back and forth, toggle, back and forth between the two tasks. It couldn't remember, just like 2 seconds before, that it had written, you know, letter J. Like you had to stop and think. You're like, J, okay, what's next? K. You know what I mean? It took that extra second or so to get this, you know, sequence going for every letter. So that's just an example of how your mind works. It can't do both and be good at both. So multitasking is out. So put that on your notes, because I know you're taking notes, because I know you're smart, because I know you're here. All right, the last thing that I want to mention, and I also teach this as well in a couple different things that I have out there, but when you are scheduling things, like say you have a big project that's gonna take you maybe a few days. Now, if you sit down and say, okay, today's the day I'm finishing this project. I don't care if it takes me all day, I'm getting it done. It's good motivation, but it's not gonna be very productive, and here's why. Studies have shown that if you work in 45 to 52 minute increments with a break of about 15 minutes, you know, 14, 15 minutes of physical activity, you are way more likely to succeed at whatever you are working on in the long run. So your brain can only focus for about 45 to 52 minutes, and then it has to take a break. And here's what you need to do for the break, though. This is important. Instead of saying, okay, I'm gonna shut this down, my project down after 45 minutes, that'll be my Facebook time. I'll just scroll through Facebook, sit here, you know, and do that to relax my brain. Well, that's great that you're taking a break. However, the only way to stay energized throughout your day is to do some physical activity during that break. So that doesn't mean you're like doing jumping jacks. You can do that, that would be great, but you can just walk around the house, walk around your office, maybe go up to the next floor, take the stairs, whatever you have to do, but just move. Because that, if you don't move, you know how you feel when you've been sitting and you've been working all day at your desk maybe, and you haven't been up in a while. And even though you haven't even physically done much, you're exhausted brain-wise. That's just your brain fatigue, mental fatigue. And it's a real thing. That's because, remember we talked about that glucose that your brain burns in order to make good decisions. Well, that's happening all the time when you're, you know, busy on your project. And the only way to refuel them quickly and efficiently is to get your body moving. That's gonna help that brain produce more energy. It's going to bring more blood flow so it can do that, more oxygen, and that way you're going to be able to think clearer, be a little bit sharper, have more energy than when you sat down. And so if you do have something big like that, and most of us want to be productive because we accomplish big goals, you need to break it down into chunks. Does that make sense? Chunks with physical activity. And again, it doesn't need to be like running a marathon. Although if you do, that's awesome, because I could never do that. All right, so let me recap quickly. So we talked about stress and caveman. We need to get rid of distractions, right? Because our brain's always scanning. We also need to plan our day. So if you have not done the Find Your Free Time course, please go to findyourfreetime.com. I'm telling you, the people that have gone through the new one are loving it. It's a little bit more condensed, easier to follow. It's just a video training. So go ahead and do that at findyourfreetime.com, and you plan your day ahead. I don't care if you do the training or not, you have to plan ahead so that nobody else dictates your day. And then you have to find your power hour, schedule your tasks that need a lot of concentration in that hour. And you also cannot multitask, no multitasking allowed, and you have to chunk your time with some physical activity, and you are going to be insanely productive because you will see such a big difference just implementing 5 things. Just 5 things can change your life. And that's why I wanted to share my answers with you, because I found this to be so true, especially having 3 businesses and 4 kids and a husband, okay? And I'm trying to sell my house and there's just a lot going on. I have a lot of changes, but still I have time. Like before I came on here, me and my little boy were singing songs. I mean, up till 5 minutes before I hopped on here. Because I have the time to do that. I've scheduled ahead and I've planned for productivity. So if you liked this video and you haven't subscribed to us yet, go ahead and do that now. We're gonna do this every week. We're gonna bring you great trainings where you're gonna learn how to simplify and systematize your life, therefore making you feel a lot less stressed. You're gonna find more joy and more freedom in your daily lives and in your businesses as well. And then also, if you could please either give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whatever you are feeling for this video, that helps me know how I'm doing. And if you could comment in the video below, you could also tell me what kind of videos you would like to see. So don't forget to go to findyourfreetime.com. That's our free program that's going to help you systematize your schedule and your to-do list every single day. And I'm going to save you at least an hour a day. That's how I do my business. That's how I do my life. I use this system, and it is something that I'd love to share with you as well to make your life easier. So I will see you next time. Stay tuned right here, Erin Cook Official. God bless. If I asked you to draw or write out numbers 1 through 23 or 26, how many letters? I can't even think. It's 8 o'clock.